Hi, Sean Songbird song. Talk about the Miranda obsession. Josh Groban as Billy Joel, Rachel Brosnahan as Miranda, Grosvenor on Audible. Comments. She kind of looks like Zoe Deschanel. When Josh Groban learned Billy Joel was sharing song ideas with Miranda, Josh concluded this must have been an intimate relationship with her. That kind of trust is not easily won. And that's what goes on. Michelle finds messages that fit her in Josh Groban's songs. So that's an intimate relationship. Josh Groban Matters. This is a website where they're discussing his new album, Harmony. I saw the potential. I tried to get GarageBand to work. What is this song? But Too Techie Challenged. Couldn't figure it out. Okay, so Josh Groban says that during the pandemic he worked with GarageBand, which I think is on Apple, and I had a MacBook Pro that had GarageBand on it, and I tried to use it to write songs, but I couldn't figure out how to make it work. So it didn't work for me, but it worked for him. So he said he used GarageBand. For a lot of us, the comforts of norms have gone away, and the growth can come from that. He said he sang into his iPhone. When I had money, my son told me not to buy an iPhone. I think he knew it was too complicated for my mindset. Josh said he didn't have the luxury to even be in the same room with somebody. He said a lot of growth can come from that. If you want to make it, you have to make it by yourself. That's been my situation, said Michelle, for almost 10 years. Now I have some help. Jim Quick's my super brain coach, trainer. Joel Osteen, once my father Moses, has been coaching me through almost daily tweets, sometimes 2 or 3 in a day. And I read his books also. They helped me and guided me. Josh said I wasn't sure the songs I was writing would ever see the light of day. I was writing for myself to have hope and the world. I have a million things in my GarageBand. I don't know if they'll ever see the light of day. But you just have to get it out of you. I, Michelle, have written boxes of papers in New York at Stevie Wonder's townhouse, but before that, in my own co-op on the Lower East Side of New York City. Then, when I was homeless and my work was in storage, I'd write for hours at McDonald's near 34th Street and at Starbucks on Allen and Delancey, in the library also on Fifth Avenue, on the bench in front of the library if the library was closed. Tell you a quick story. One day, it was a holiday, and I taped some of my pictures to the windows of the library to try to create, because the library was closed, to try to create an atmosphere of love and companionship for myself, sitting on that bench. An attractive 40-something black lady came up to me, handed me a $5 bill. She said, "May I give this to you?" I looked at her, and I felt respect coming from her. She obviously had sized me up, seeing what I was doing. She said she worked for some politician, I don't remember his name, and I looked at it like the king supported or sponsored the artists in early times. That's how I was able to accept the money. If she had made me feel like a beggar, I wouldn't have taken it. All these years of being cash poor and homeless, I never sat on the sidewalk like many women and men down on their luck do, with a coin catcher nearby. I couldn't do that. I think I would have given up and let myself die if I allowed myself to beg strangers like a dog begging for a bone. Now, if I was a musician, musicians playing and getting coins, that's completely different. They are working. I'm not talking about that, but I'm not a musician. So I had to keep my dignity. My mother told me two things you must always have. That is self-respect and happiness. Okay, what else? So I spread joy somehow, whether I was in a church bed scene, in some church basement, talking to the church volunteers, or sleeping in a chair at Oliveri's walk-in center for the homeless. And if the environment was mean, I kept to myself and wrote with pen and paper for hours on end. I didn't get much sleep these past 10 years, but neither did I succumb to negativity and depression and thoughts of suicide. I couldn't afford to go that low because subconsciously I knew there was no one to pull me back up, and I couldn't pull myself up if I let myself go all the way to black bottom. So if there was no acquaintance to talk to, I got involved in the environment and took pictures of things and people that make me feel something, to keep my humanity alive. A picture I took of a lady, a black lady, living in a big box on a sidewalk near Walgreens in Manhattan comes to mind. The girl, a Dominican from the same walk-in shelter as me, was talking to her. I asked them to pose for a picture. They did. She told me later she couldn't stay talking to the lady in the box because she is a drug addict, and she'd hit on her for money if she hung around her for very long. I never did drugs, never smoked anything or drank any alcohol or ate any meat, fish, or eggs when I was down on my luck. I kept my values when I was on the bottom, same as when I was on the top of things. I never thought of it before, but I exercised discipline. That's how I kept out of the mud. That's funny because I never thought of myself as having any discipline. That's the thing about stopping to think. You find out things about yourself and others that you didn't know. Just running and ripping and running through life. You have to stop and take a look at it. My mother was a disciplined person until she met the wrong man. She met the wrong man, and what happened? She started drinking booze, meaning bourbon and scotch like that. Before that, she only drank beer. But with him, she started drinking booze to keep up with him. This rotted her liver, and she died at age 54. She, I found out later, had very bad stomach pains for 5 years before she gave up and died to stop her emotional pain and physical pain. Apparently, he had gotten a baby with my sister. My mother didn't act as though it bothered her. She treated the baby with love. God, what a scuzz. Low-life men, husbands, lowered my mother. And the reason it didn't bother her, because her mother gave her to a Christian couple, Sister Donnie Wright and Brother Willie Wright, because her husband drank and she was worried that he would molest the baby, as she had been molested when she was a child. This is my grandmother I'm talking about. So my mother wanted to show her mother, you didn't have to give me away. I don't care if he would have molested me. I wouldn't care. I would be fine. So when her daughter came out pregnant by her boyfriend, she loved the child. She didn't care that he had sex with her daughter. You see, because she was proving to her mother that she wouldn't have cared. She didn't have to give her away to protect her. She wouldn't have cared if she had been molested. So she's trying, in effect, to redo something that's already happened. That's pretty insane. My other mother and father did not drink alcohol or smoke anything. They were practicing Christians. They kept our family at a high level because they were good people who did the right thing. They died and took rebirth as my children, Sing and Robin. My daughter Melanie had been my grandmother, Mama Mill. Her daughter Jandara Michelle Ranzinger I now know was my mother Frog, or as Paula called her, Miss Frog. People's souls and genes are recycled. Back to Josh Groban Matters. He said everybody was telling him the songs had relevance. Matter said, if that's the man's name interviewing Josh, said, you started at one place and landed at another, but you clearly have one thing. The magic happened in between. Josh said, I couldn't have said it better myself. Finding momentum, losing it, then having to find it again. You're not thinking far down the line. You're thinking about each song, each arrangement, making them the best they can be. Then once you've done that, then what's the next thing we can do is what you think. When you're putting the puzzle pieces together and you're looking at them from a 30,000 feet view. That is the art. That's the part that's still sorcery to me, says Josh. You see, there was a common thread that you didn't realize was happening as you were putting each piece together. That's what Michelle found. One song will say to you, I'm bound. To you, I'm bound. I want to be there wherever you lead me, for better or for worse, for the rest of my life. That's the marriage vow. The rest comes after sex. That's the honeymoon. You follow me? So for the musical Mr. and Mrs. Jesus Christ, Michelle has traced the courtship of Jesus Josh to Mary Magdalene. And now she found the marriage and honeymoon. Josh sings when he sings a song, Won't Look Back. Josh says the romance songs, whatever it is, when you put it all together, it's the human condition. Right under your nose that you weren't fully conscious was developing. Michelle said this began with her very first exposure to music, Nat King Cole. I'll just show you this. Nat King Cole, Josh Groban, same person, telling her the greatest thing you'll ever learn is just to love and be loved in return. The greatest, you just told me, the greatest thing I'll ever learn. Now, wow. And she took the words of the song, Nature Boy, to heart. We got some more messages here. We got Michelle, B for Bird Song, orders, ears, eyes. Okay? To heart. Then Josh Groban, Jesus, as Jackie Wilson, when she's a tween, tells her, some wish to be a king or a queen, some wish for fortune and fame, but to be truly, truly loved is better than any of those things. Again, she took Josh, Jesus, Jackie Wilson's words to heart as she had taken Nat King Cole's words to heart when he was Josh Groban, when Josh Groban was Nat King Cole. So she didn't look for high status, because he said being truly loved is better than a fortune and better than being a king or a queen. So she didn't look for high status, nor did she look for money. She just kept loving the songs and feeling loved by the songs, or feeling love from the words she would hear the singer sing. Josh Groban, Jesus, as Sam Cooke, was in her algebra class, else how did he write about what she was experiencing? She had always aced school, but she wasn't getting algebra. J.T. Clardy, now Dr. John Thomas Clardy, twin of Dr. George Thomas Clardy, helped Michelle, also known as Minnow, with algebra. Sam Cooke sang, don't know much about algebra. Don't know what a slide rule is for. And then don't know much about the French I took. French was her favorite set of sounds. When she and her sister were young children, they called white neighbors. Minnow would pretend she was speaking French. She wasn't Gigi. She was speaking gibberish. Don't know much about the French I took, but I do know that I love you, and I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be. Now there's the greatest thing you'll ever learn, and Nat King Cole told her about. She opened up her heart and mentally conceived a child immaculately. Means he didn't touch her physically. Her boyfriend in Clarksville, Tennessee provided the testosterone to manifest their baby physically in her womb. That's all Minnow wanted, was to be a mother who loved her children so well the children felt loved, knew they were loved. Minnow's mother loved Minnow's sister, Helen. She did not love Minnow. When Minnow was 4, her mother told her, "I never wanted you. I tried to abort you, but my ears began to ring like dinner bells, so I stopped aborting you." Now, who rang the bell? That's what Minnow wondered about. So you have John Lennon and Paul McCartney singing "Michelle, My Belle." Did ring the bell, right? The wedding bells. And then Seth Wynne Ransinger, her grandson, was Alexander Graham Bell, who invented the telephone, so he rang the bell also. Okay. So anyway, the mother said her ears rang like dinner bells, and I stopped aborting you, she told Minnow. Minnow panicked and retraced her steps to birth. She ran mentally and emotionally all the way back to the subatomic particle level. Let's see what we got here. What message do we have in these words? C, U, B, at. Ordering, M-I-C-L-E, Michelle, vibrating, E-V-E, Eve, mold, the mold of Eve, the mother therapist. So I wrote it out in case I couldn't decipher it. Fetus, Eve, mold of mother therapist. So when Minnow's mother found out she was pregnant, she thought the baby was Minnow's boyfriend. She had no clue the baby was conceived by the love of Minnow for Josh Groban, Sam Cooke, Nat King Cole, Wardell Alfred, who sang to her when she was 5 years old on a chapel program at Burt High School in Clarksville, Tennessee. He can turn the tide and calm the angry sea. He alone decides who writes a symphony. He knows every lie that you and I have told. You deserve a symphony, sang Josh Groban on a song he co-wrote called Symphony on his album called Bridges. Miss Frog had Sam Cooke's Love Baby aborted. There went the source Minnow could have given love to and received love from that Nat King Cole told her was what she wanted, because it's the greatest thing. Miss Frog thought she aborted Jackie Wilson's baby, but that baby was born. He's been St. Luke St. Paul, who was Sir Paul McCartney's disciple. St. Paul was the third most important figure in Christianity after Jesus. Josh Groban. Okay. And Moses. Now Joel Osteen. Moses Menno's father is an incarnation. St. Luke, Jesus Josh, Jackie Wilson's father, and Mary Magdalene. Minnow, Michelle, baby now, is Dr. Benjamin Carson. You understand? Jesus and Mary Magdalene's baby is Dr. Benjamin Carson, a pediatric neurosurgeon, raised per the instructions of his birth mother. Josh said, I try to pay attention to the why in choosing a classic song, how we're going to do it, putting your whole being into it. I owe it to the songs and to all the vocalists and interpreters ahead of me and before me. Thank you for approving the intent, because it's there for all of us. He's thanking the interviewer. So the interviewer had pointed out that Josh's songs are not contrived. You've done 9 studio albums. This one, Harmony, has got to be right up there. He's saying it's great. So that's all for part 1. I hope I gave you a lot of information. I hope it's clear. You can listen again if you're not clear. If I didn't speak clearly enough for you to understand what I was saying. Okay, so this is the end of this video.